now that we're not doing Sting, that means we have to go to the world title stuff, which means we have to talk about Glen Gilberti.
Yes! My favorite pro wrestler!
This was your plan all along, to deviate us away from the goodness of Sting to Glen Gilberti.
Yeah, I went from a bad wrestler to a good wrestler.
So, Jeff Jarrett, NWA champion, after we had the whole month, the entire 1 month build to Glen Gilberti against Jeff Jarrett, we finally got the match.
Yeah.
Glen Gilberti, Jeff Jarrett for the NWA title, and it was fine.
It was okay. You like this match more than me.
I gave it a gentleman's 3. I thought it was a perfectly... Or did I go 2.75? I might have been too spiteful to give it a gentleman's 3.
I think I went 2.75 and you went 3.
But listen, it was a perfectly acceptable world title match. The problem is, like, it was not quite good enough for Glenn to be like, well, look, I did it. But it was also not bad enough for, like, Glenn detractors to be like, oh, Glenn sucks, he shat the bed. Like, they had a perfectly acceptable, decent world title match.
It was the most, like... You know, I went slightly below, but it's like, if you ever want to see a gentleman's 3.
It is perfectly adequate wrestling.
Perfectly competent pro wrestling.
To be fair to Disco, he's not a bad wrestler.
He's not a good wrestler, but he's not a bad wrestler.
Yeah, he's not the guy who'll go out there and have the worst match you'll ever see, but he will also very rarely go out there and have a good match.
Ah, I see. You haven't been delving into the WWE stuff.
Not yet. But, like, for the most part, like, technically, he's fine.
He can wrestle a match.
And this was him wrestling a match. I will say, I am disgusted at, like, this is the second week in a row, because the Raven match the week before, which we covered in the last episode, was also a body part match. Seeing Glenn work over somebody's leg is just like, why are you making me watch this TNA?
Yeah, it was unfortunate. Of course, in the lead up to this match, throughout the show, there was some pretty... listen, there's some good segments here. Like, Gilberti is a good goofball and can do good goofball segments, like leading a prayer circle and asking Vince Russo for guidance.
Yeah, so they're standing there, sex, hand in hand, all of them, including the Nazis, allegedly.
No, they were there.
So they were standing together, and Glenn was like, Lord, guide me to the World Championship this month. Lord, led Vince Russo to me, because Russo returned to help Glenn beat Raven last week.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute, by the way. We've got some fucking problems with that shit.
My least favourite part of this, the build of this, was Jeff Jarrett did an interview during this show where he was talking about how Glen Gilberti couldn't possibly win the title. It would be a disgrace to the NWA. It would be a disgrace to professional wrestling. It would sully the integrity of our sport. Even though, like, 2 weeks ago, he did that promo being like, oh, you know, people change. He might be a real wrestler now.
You know what it was? 2 weeks ago, he's like, people change. And then the week after, he's like, no, he didn't change.
He did beat the shit out of them the week after, so you know what? Fair.
He's like, no, this guy, he's the same. He's the same guy.
So, yeah, after the match, you know, perfectly decent, normal match, but the finish, Vince Russo runs out with his baseball bat.
Big return.
Well, he returned last week, but...
Oh, wait, yeah. Sorry, the fact that it was 2 NWA title matches, like after this as well, and then this, and then Russo was interfering in 3 main events in a row.
Helping a different person every time. So, if you remember, the Raven-Gilberti match, Russo returned to help Gilberti beat Raven.
Yes.
Right here, June 4th, Jarrett Gilberti, Russo comes out with his bat, he's standing, Jarrett one side, Gilberti the other, swings to hit Jarrett, swerves Liam.
Ken swerve!
He swerves to knock Gilberti out. Jarrett retains the title over Gilberti after interference from Vince Russo. And everyone's like, oh, what's going on? Why did he screw Glenn?
I don't think anyone actually was going like that. To be fair to Russo, no one swivels the hips better than Vince Russo.
He's done it multiple times in TNA already, so...
He is kind of the GOAT of swiveling the hips.
And he's gonna do it again next week, so...
Yeah.
Alright, so that brings us to NWA-TNA PPV number 49, June 11th, in which Glen Gilberti does an in-ring promo where he's talking about how Russo was never good anyway.
Babyface Glen Gilberti. Ace of the company.
I don't even think he's a babyface. I think he's just...
He was trying to get cheered in this segment.
No, I don't think he was.
I think he was. There was definitely points where he was like, God, Russo, boo, and trying to get the crowd into it, and the crowd was not buying a second of it.
Well, yeah, because he kept on talking until the crowd started chanting boring.
Yeah, but he was definitely trying to be like, maybe not a complete babyface, but he was definitely trying to be more of a face in this.
Yeah, so he's talking about all the shitty stuff Russo booked in WCW and how he spent years pretending to like it so he could be Russo's friend.
Pew, 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 pew.
here we are back to the work shoot nonsense here. Until Russo came out mad at him, they went into a little scuffle until the Harris brothers interfered and beat the shit out of Glenn. Glenn had to go to hospital.
Nah. Nah.
So that is the major disco stuff. We'll get. I think. Is there any more disco this month?
Yeah, he comes back in the other show.
Oh, he main events the last show of the month, of course.
Yes.
Which led us to our tag team main event. Well, actually, no. The Douglas made the challenge in a backstage promo, and then Jeff Jarrett and Raven accepted the challenge, including the line, "You better not stroke me from behind."
Which someone else had a good stroke line as well. A lot of good stroke lines.
Our main event, Jarrett and Raven defeated Gilberti and Shane Douglas by disqualification when the Sinister Minister James Mitchell himself returned and threw a fireball over Raven. He kind of missed, but...
Yeah, but, the heat expanded.
Which caused the DQ. Both Raven and Gilberti were injured in this match. Gilberti went into the match with, back spasms, so he wasn't great in this match. He has an excuse.
Yeah, man, I've been there, bro. That shit sucks.
And Raven hurt his ankle. So every time Raven was on the floor being like, "Oh boy, my ankle hurts," he actually just hurt his ankle.
Yeah, it looked like it too. It didn't look like selling.
So Raven spent some time in hospital after the show while poor Gilberti's back spasms were freaking out.
But he made that ROH date.
Yeah, so he still showed up for Ring of Honor.